it's great to be back at the Great British Car Journey again for their French event. Really enjoyed this one last year. I've arrived nice and early. There's about half a dozen cars already here when I arrived, and one I spotted with my eagle eyes all the way from the gate was this Mark II Clio, and this is actually a very special Mark II Clio because this is an Initiale. Peter, you're the fortunate owner of this excellent Mark II Clio, and it's been in your family for quite a long time, hasn't it?
Yes, basically it was bought in June 2003 by my mother, funny enough, down the road just in Derby. And it actually spent all its time in Lincolnshire. She ran it until she unfortunately passed away around 2015, and it was then left and I took the vehicle over. It's not a daily driver, it does do small runs, and it's just coming up to 30,000 miles on the clock.
Okay.
You can tell the Initiale, the thing that gives it away is the headlight washers.
Yeah.
And 4 doors.
So it's got xenon lights, hasn't it, on the
Lights,
Initiales?
yeah.
And obviously the side rubbing strips and door handles are all colour-coded as well. And obviously the wheels are unique to the Initiale trim as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
But it's on the inside, isn't it, where these cars really, really stand out?
Yes, as you can see, it's got all the toys on it. The Alcantara and leather seats.
Yep, the wood veneer.
The wood veneer, cruise control, climate control, electric front windows, but not electric rear. But no Renaults of this era did have on these Clios here.
No.
And of course the rubbing strip at the bottom there that gives it away with the Initiale Paris. Rear reading lights, and if you're observant you can also see the lights in the front doors for light illuminating your entry into the car and illuminating the footwell. Also, a bit of an oddity on the back is it has a special compartment for putting your suit.
Oh yes, the suit carrier is actually something that featured all the way back in the 80s with the Renault 5 Monaco or Baccara in some European markets, and obviously that was continued into the Mark I Clio in models such as the Williams and the Baccara, and obviously it's nice to see it survived onto the second gen of Clio. Now I have actually featured a Clio Initiale a few years ago, but that was a Mark II Phase 1. Now, I've actually owned Phase 1 and Phase 2 Clios in my time. Obviously the Phase 1 did get, the Phase 2, as well as a restyle, got quite a huge step up in terms of standard equipment. So that was both in terms of, things like your standard electrical gadgets, but also in terms of safety. So by this point we had things like ABS as standard, electronic brake distribution. Early Mark II Clios only had a driver's airbag, a passenger airbag was an option. By this point we've got side airbags as well, so Renault were really stepping things up as we went into the 21st century.
This particular example is a 1600 petrol engine.
Yeah, so that's the 1.6 16 valve,
the
110 horsepower.
That's the one.
But more unusual is, yours is a manual, isn't it, rather than an automatic?
Yes. I think according to how many left, which I know is very rough, there's about under 60 still taxed on the road.
Yeah, I must admit the last one of these I saw was in, I forget the name, but it was like a sage green colour. This one platinum.
Yes.
Yeah, both of my
Clios. Either.
Yeah, it's a colour that always suited these cars. I mean, my dad had a platinum RT, and then I had 2 platinum Clios myself, so I think it is a colour that definitely suits. But yeah, this is a model that's probably relatively unknown to a lot of people. Everyone remembers the 172s and the 182s. I can't remember how much these were new, but I imagine they were probably more expensive.
Yeah, well, obviously not in comparison to 3-litre ones, but
the V6s.
But now my mother bought this from Mode Point, so they are, I didn't know, about 13,000 list.
Yes.
She paid just about 10,900 from this new.
Right. Okay.
According to the sales document I've got on it.
Yeah, and just by contrast, I think the list price, the entry-level list price on a Mark II Clio at the time for a base model would have been in the region of about £8,000. So yeah, obviously it would have been considered quite an expensive car back in its day, and hence why these small luxury models, you really didn't see that many even when they were new, and obviously, pushing 20 years later, they really are like a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
Right, well, thanks very much, and I've really enjoyed seeing your car. time to go a bit lightweight again and see if we can get round a few more of these cars. So as expected, there's quite a good turnout here today of interesting cars. Lovely DS, always nice to see one of those. Another 16, that's Peugeot 106. Again, a good turnout of Twingos here. This car I actually saw last year along with its miniature Twingo ride-on equivalent in the matching paint colour. So another lovely Twingo here is this blue one. This is a later Mark 1 Twingo, and that's actually a initial spec car. So these are the plush one. The leather, actually, I have seen one of these before, but with the lighter coloured interior. This has got the darker leather, but I think that's a nice colour combination. Looks really, really smart, does that. This Twingo here, this one has actually recently been acquired by one of our Renault Owners Club members. Again, I'm going to leave links to some of these groups in the video description. This one is actually in coriander green, so one of the better colours I think on these early cars. And this one is has had some quite extensive recommissioning, so a lot of work being done to try and restore this one back to its former glory. But yeah, these are wonderful little cars, and if you haven't already done so, check out the video where I reviewed a Mark 1 Twingo very, very similar to this quite recently. Got a lovely little Citroen AX GTS. Now that, I presume, is the designation for the 5-door version. I'm certainly no Citroen expert, but yeah, the GTs are popular little cars. Use a little 1.4 litre engine, and again, because they didn't weigh anything, they were great fun. Lovely Alpine A110. It's always nice to see one of these, and seeing it parked next to a Renault 16, it was amazing how low these cars actually look. So this morning I had expected I would probably bump into my friend Mick from Simca Club UK. Mick's fairly local to these parts, I think.
Chesterfield.
Yeah, and he knows rather a lot about Simcas and owns a few, don't you, Mick? Now,
about 6 of them at present.
6 at present.
Yeah. 7 on the way.
Okay. Yeah. Well, always room for one more.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about this car that's in front of us, because it's not exactly what it appears, is it?
No, it's a 77 Simca 1100 GLX, which came originally with a single carb, 50-ish something bhp 1118 engine. This Simca Spain made a 1500cc TI model.
Yep.
With basically the 1442 Chrysler Talbot Alpine engine.
Yep.
With a pair of DCNF Webers and a Wilder cam. That model wasn't available in the UK, so I've made myself one.
Excellent.
This is the engine out of a Matra Bagheera, which is the twin carb Talbot Alpine engine.
Yep.
But it's got a little touch extra, which is the race cam out of my old oval racer.
Excellent.
It probably turns out over the 100 bhp mark.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
What I like about your cars, Mick, is that where a lot of people, I mean, it's all good and well having a pristine car that's show and shining, you know, probably never sees, maybe only sees daylight the odd Sunday in the summer. Your cars actually get used as intended, don't they?
Oh, that's it. I've always been into that.
Yeah.
That's why I run the stand for the club at the NEC Restoration Show in March.
Yeah.
And I prefer that to the November Spit and Polish show sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it's a bit more of a relaxed atmosphere as well, and I still think it still amazes me that I managed to miss you, even though I was on the next stand to you all weekend. But that's the nature of these shows, isn't it?
I'd got my barn find a lightweight X-racing car that I sold years ago. It's come back to me after passing through the hands of umpteen dreamers.
Yeah, yeah. Now you've got another vehicle here today which also sees some use, so we'll move on and have a look at that one.
Okay,
So this is the other car you fetched along, Mick. Tell us a bit about this one.
This is a Simca Rally 2, which is the twin carb 82 bhp model we never actually got on the UK market.
Okay.
We only got the single carb at Rally 1. Hence it's an import.
Yeah. It's
on a V-reg, but it's actually a 75 car.
Right.
Because back in those days you got the current reg.
Yeah.
It was imported in 7980. And it was imported by a chap in Llanelli in South Wales.
Yep.
And unfortunately he got killed on one of his classic motorbikes 18 months later.
Oh, okay.
So I bought it in 2003. And in the intervening time, it spent most of its time gathering dust in a garage.
Right.
I got it in 2003, recommissioned it, and I've run it ever since then.
Yeah, I think I've seen it at a few shows that you've been to with this one, and
Yeah.
you mentioned you have got another one of these that's more track orientated.
Yes, I've actually got a photo of it if you're interested. That is one that was built as a racing car by Frank Breedenstein, who was a top engineer at the Porsche factory.
Okay.
And he raced it in the Youngtimer Trophy round Nürburgring, Spa, Hockenheim, etc. Sold it to a lad in Essex in 2010, and I got it in 2016.
Excellent.
I've retired from racing, but I just take it out for track days now.
Yeah.
That has the 1294 engine as in this, but tuned to turn out 130 bhp.
Yeah.
It is sheer fun on the racetrack.
I can imagine.
And it goes around Cadwell Park like it's on rails.
Yeah.
You know, built by a top Porsche engineer who knows his rear engine cars inside out.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people need to remember, especially the younger generation now, is that although those power figures might not sound a lot by today's standards, these cars weigh a heck of a lot less than the modern equivalents, don't they?
The racer weighs 675 kilograms.
Yeah.
And it really does go.
Yeah.
This car's actually got the spare engine out of my racing car in.
All right. That's why it sounded so fruity when it came in then.
Oh yeah. A friend of mine who does track days with another Simca 1000 with me.
Yeah.
He's the engine wizard, and Phil Hart, and he built me this engine for another car I'm working on, and that's something you could never buy for the Simca 1000.
No.
It's the 1442 engine out of the front wheel drives,
Yeah.
but adapted to rotate in the opposite direction for the rear engine car.
Right. Okay. See, there's always a way, isn't there? It just takes a little bit of thought and adaptation, and yeah. Brilliant. Well, that's wonderful, Mick. Thanks very much, and it's been nice seeing you again. 2025 actually marks 60 years since the launch of the Renault 16. Now, the 16 actually has the caveat of being the first hatchback. It actually beat the Maxi. Now, I'm still learning a lot about these cars, and the more and more I delve into them, the more fascinating they seem to be. The Renault Classic Car Club, whom I'm a member of, in their magazine recently, they actually had an article all about the 16, and there was some interesting artist sketches of the concept car as well, and the original concept actually had gull-wing doors. Now, how mad would that have been? But even gull-wing doors aside, I still think these are fascinating looking cars. They just don't look like anything else on the road, do they? We've got a few examples here on display. We've got a couple of TXs, like this model here behind me, which was a sort of the plusher model in the range. You also got these quad headlamps, which was a way of identifying these cars from the front. A few interior changes as well. We got some more instruments in there, a nice little trim piece, like a bit of a chrome spoiler, up on the top of the roof above the tailgate. But whichever model you got of these cars, as I say, they were certainly different to other vehicles on the road. We've got a few of the lower spec cars, or the earlier cars, with the single headlamps here as well. But again, still great looking cars, and they all had a few very interesting little quirks. So again, I've probably mentioned this previously, but the 16s, like other front wheel drive Renaults of the era, actually have a front mid-mounted engine. That means that the transmission is actually ahead of the engine, and the engine actually sits behind the front axle line. These cars, much like the Renault 4s, actually have a different length wheelbase on either side of the car. So one side is marginally smaller, and that's due to the design of the torsion beam rear suspension, which gives these cars an incredible amount of suspension travel. These cars really are said to ride exceptionally well, even on the poorest quality of roads. Now, where you spot the difference in the wheelbase is actually at the side of the car. So if you look behind the rear doors, the rear quarter panel is slightly longer. The space between the trailing edge of the rear door and the wheel arch is slightly greater on one side of the car than what it is on the other. Again, other interesting design cues on this car. I love how the door handles sort of blend in to this line that runs along the top edge of the door. So rather than mounting it flat against the face of the door, it's sort of on that line on the edge on top. Just little details that you always pick out with these cars. Something else I'd never noticed on these cars before is this little vent that pops up as well under the windscreen. As I say, a number of times I've looked at these and I'm still finding new sort of design features to these cars.
If you go that's one position, you've moved everything forward so you've got more luggage space. Then you can go back and hang that up, back that up, so then you can take your parcel shelf out and you can actually take the seat.
But as much as I would love to waffle on about Renault 16s all day, there are so many other vehicles here to see, so I'm going to crack on now and have a walk around, see what else we can find. Again, if I'm whizzing past some of these cars, it's likely that it's something I've featured in great detail before, like the Renault Aventime. Again, never tire of seeing one though. Citroen BX, never seen one with a dual headlight conversion like this before, so that's a little bit different. Actually, that's a BX16 valve. Next to that, a couple of Xantias, a pre and post facelift model. Again, so subtle, unless you see two of them together, you'd probably struggle to tell the difference. This one is a Activa model as well. Next to this Mark 1 Renault 5 TS here, with a rather familiar dealer sticker in the back window as well. Of course, we have actually got a couple of the new Renault 5s here as well, the electric versions, which I saw as I came in. Always plenty of 2CVs, a Mahari definitely stands out in the crowd in that one. So the car I really need to show you though is this one behind me. Now this is really something rather special, very rare indeed. So what we've got here is a Citroen Bijou. These I believe were actually built in Slough in England, and fiberglass body, only built a little over 200 of these cars. Underneath, chassis wise, very similar to a Citroen 2CV, and I think they used something like a 400 or a 425cc engine, I think it was, a little air-cooled engine in these cars. But as I say, only a couple of hundred of these ever built. I'm not sure if I've actually ever seen one of these before, so a real treat coming here today. This is the thing when you come to these shows sometimes, and you do see a lot of the same stuff, but it only takes to see one or two things like this, a bit like the Panhard I saw only a few weeks ago at a show, and it really makes it worthwhile coming out to see. So we've got Diane and a couple of 2CVs, Citroen AK, always nice to see those. Still very, very popular vehicles, and often with some interesting liveries as well. I often think about how useful one of those would be down on my allotment actually for running things back and forth. I mean, essentially that's what these cars really were for back in the day anyway. There was remobilising France after World War II, regardless whether you had the car version or the van. They were very, very versatile vehicles. Just to show, actually, we've had quite a few more people turn up now, so we've filled all this section, a couple of rows deep along that side, and then as we come around here, we've got an Arcadian, which is the Diane version of the AK with the revised front end there. Small 2CVs, a Pluriel, don't see many of those about. ZX, I quite like these. Relative of mine had one of those, it was a fantastic car. We've actually got a facelifted Citroen XM here. Now these are the model that scare even the most dedicated of Citroen owners, but wonderful, wonderful cars. As I say, this one is a facelift, so got a slightly different interior in there, but really, really nice car. Such a plush interior, you've got the wood, and those seats just look so, so comfortable. I've actually been reading a book about the XM, which I think is from around '89, so it talks a lot about the development of the car, and I think Citroen spent in the region of about 750 million in the late 1980s, so we're probably only talking 50 million shy of what Renault spent a short time after on developing and equipping a factory to build the Safran. So serious sums of money for that period in time. And obviously being you know, Citroen's flagship car, Citroen really wanted these cars to be not only comfortable but also reliable, and I know testing was again very, very extensive. 3 decades down the line though, well, as I say, they are quite a complex car, and yeah, you really do need someone who knows what they're doing if you do get an issue with these cars. But yeah, I really, really like them. I mean, as I said before, when these cars came out, I weren't a huge fan of the styling, but I think they've just got better with age. And obviously in a Citroen XM, I don't think there's any other car you'd feel more like you were in Ronin than you would do if you're driving an XM. As expected, Club Peugeot UK are here, and there does seem to be a great turnout. Peugeot RCZ 306 convertible, Peugeot 205, this one's a CJ, so that's the non-GTI version of the convertible. Obviously the GTI convertibles were the CTI, but again, great looking little cars. I think these have aged really well, and obviously these convertibles are just represent everything that's fun about summer, don't they? Even down to the stickers, the design on those, it's so of its time, isn't it? Sort of that late 80s, early 90s colour scheme, really like that. A couple of 208s to the GTI, very rare sight indeed these days. A Peugeot 607, in fact again in period, not a huge seller for Peugeot, so this was their flagship model. But dare I say it, at the time Citroen had the C6, Renault had the Aventime and Velsatis, and I suppose it left the Peugeot looking a little bit ordinary next to the competition, somewhat conventional. But again, a car not to be underestimated, and yeah, if you want some real French luxury for a sensible price, 607 probably ticks all the boxes. Also, interestingly, this is one of the first cars I remember seeing where when you hit the brakes hard, the hazard warning lights come on. I know a little thing we probably take for granted today, but back when these cars were launched, that's something you didn't typically see on other vehicles. Another nice little 205, one of two RCZRs, 106, second RCZR, and a 406 Coupe. I'm not sure if these may or may not belong to my friend Justin. I know he's got quite a few Peugeots like this in his collection. Just down the bottom end of the site here, we've got Drive Dad's car, where you can actually come and pay to take one of these cars out around the site. So definitely worth looking at. I've done it before. In fact, I've got some reviews on the channel of a couple of the cars I drove here, but that's going back quite a long time ago. So yeah, definitely worth a visit if you haven't done it before. Come down and have a drive of some of the vehicles in their extensive collection. Some more Peugeots again on this side of the yard. Peugeot 505 estate. This is actually the one with the third row of bench seats in the back, but amazingly you can get 3 rows of people in there, and you've still got a reasonable sized boot as well, and obviously looking very French with those yellow headlights as well. This one's also a GTI version, so if you want to get your large family around at a reasonable pace, perhaps that's the car for you. A car I saw come in that I was rather taken with, but don't know a great deal about, is this Peugeot 203. Definitely long before my time, but quite a striking vehicle, and yeah, one that's very nice to see here today. Again, if this is your car, or if you know a bit more about these, do pop something in the comments, because every day is a school day, and yeah, it would be nice to learn a little bit more about this car. Peugeot 305s, I'm not sure if this blue one is the same one I saw actually at a show down south last year. If not, it's very similar, but yeah, quite rare cars. We've got 2 of them here today. Next to that we've got a 309, again another Peugeot I remember from the lineup of my childhood. Again, this is the one that weren't actually intended to be a Peugeot, but yeah, due to a bit of a reshuffle, this car ended up being added to Peugeot stable. A modern SUV Peugeot, which yeah, I don't really know a great deal about those, and yeah, SUVs are not really my cup of tea, but I'm sure a great family car for somebody. 205, again this one a junior, another 406 Coupe, this rather striking blue colour. Peugeot 304, these are really pretty little cars, and again I always say you don't see very many of these, and then I've actually been to a few shows now where I've seen these cars, but yeah, never gets old seeing these cars. Moving on, we've got a few rather interesting Citroens. This one here behind me is a Citroen C15 van, but it's not your average C15, because this one is a Roma home. Now, I'm not that knowledgeable on motorhomes, but to what I understand, Roma home did quite a few conversions like this and were considered to be quite a quality product, shall we say, on the market. And it was one of the manufacturers who did this sort of one-piece glass fibre body, so rather than having different flat panels with seams around the edge that inevitably would leak a few years down the line, this should still feel as solid as the day it rolled out of the factory. And yeah, I think most of us, there's a small part of us inside that likes the idea of just being able to go off in a motorhome and go and explore and you know, pull up and find a space and stay the night. And yeah, little van like this, it's small enough that you could use it as an everyday vehicle if you had to, but yeah, all the comforts of home when you're away from home. Another large French estate car here, Citroen CX. Much like the Peugeot, these were available with third rows of seats and things. This one just looks to have the 2 rows, but again, an incredibly practical and comfortable family car. Obviously you've got Citroen's famed hydro-pneumatic suspension on here. Another CX here, this one actually a pre-facelift one, and yeah, really nice looking car. Love this paint colour as well on here. Got a later CX, this one a GTI turbo, so yeah, and that interior, how 80s French luxury is that? That looks absolutely fantastic. Another XM. Now some rather interesting Mark 1 Renault Clios here that I want to have a look at. We have got some of the hotter versions, but the one that's really got me excited is actually this one here, because this Phase 3 Clio, which are often said to be the less desirable Mark 1 Clios, is actually a Clio S. And the reason I'm so excited by this is, well, for one, you just don't see them anymore. For two, when I was a young driver, sort of 17, 18 years old, driving my little Renault 5, I remember seeing these and thinking, here is a car that I could possibly look to insure as my next car. And it looked just like an RSI. I mean, the wheels that came on these cars from factory were the same wheels as on the RSI. Again, this one being in the blue is probably one of the best colours on a Clio, and other than the fact that this one hasn't got side skirts on, other than that it did look just like an RSI, but with a 1.4 litre engine as opposed to the 1.8 litre engine, and they would have still been nippy enough. And of course you got the sports seats as well in there and everything else, so you know, alloy wheels, front fog lamps, so it would have ticked all the boxes that a 17, 18 year old would have been looking for in a car at the time. Now this one has got hasn't got the original wheels on it. This has actually got a set of 15-inch Vegas, which were the wheels that the Phase 2 16 valve would have had on. So they do suit the car very well, because they are the proper wheels you would have found on another model of Clio. The original ones would have been a 14-inch 5-spoke alloy wheel, which again do look great on the car. Now I have had a brief chat with the owner of this one, and he did say he has got the standard wheels for this car as well. This car at one point almost ended up in scrap. Apparently it belonged to an old lady who, when the car needed a bit of work doing on it, it was a little bit too much of a stretch, and the car passed on to someone else, and then eventually onto its current owner. And I'm very glad it did, because as I say, it's nice to see one of these cars survive. Next to that we've got a Clio Williams, actually one of 2 here today. My friend Glyn is here with his Clio Williams as well, which again we've been discussing getting that car reviewed on the channel again at some point, hopefully later this year. Next to that again, another car I'm always pleased to see, on account of the fact that most of these ended up as track cars, and that's the Clio 16 valve, and this is probably the one you really want, because it's a Phase 1 car. So we've got those turbine wheels. The other thing we like about the Phase 1 cars is they got the interior. You got different interior fabric, and you also got the pre-airbag steering wheels as well, which again really do look good in these cars. So for those who are not that familiar with the Mark 1 Clios, you had a few hot versions. There was the RSI, which was a 1.8 litre 8 valve with 110 horsepower. Then you had the 16 valve. Effectively that started out as that was the flagship to replace the G5 GT Turbo. These were the 1.8 litre F7P engine, I think it was from memory. So 1.8 litres but with 16 valves and around 138 horsepower. Again, very quick cars. We got these blistered wheel arches on here, and yeah, these really were the dogs. This was the thing you wanted to be seen in. And then a little while after, Renault dropped the Williams. The original Clio Williams one was supposed to be a limited run car. naturally they was incredibly successful. They look very similar to the Valva, but we had those gold wheels, and ultimately we had the F7R engine, the 2 litre 16 valve. 150 horsepower was a lot of power to have in a small hatchback in the 1990s. As I say, those got preserved. Sadly, these all got made into track cars, and yeah, 3 decades later, sadly, there aren't very many left. Peugeot 406 Saloon. Again, these are fantastic cars. This is actually a pre-facelift one. I've reviewed a facelift car with the V6 engine and a manual gearbox, and it actually got my car of the year a few years ago. These are fantastic cars to drive. You can see why the press really raved about these back in period, and at some point hopefully I'll get a go in a coupe version. I know Justin has offered me a go in a few of the cars in his collection, so that's again something on my to-do list. Matra Bagheera, so the mid-engined sports car with room for the mistress in the middle. You've got 3 seats in there, driver sits on the left, and yeah, room for 2 other passengers. So I believe the Bagheeras were actually built in larger quantities than the Morenas, but the Morenas had better corrosion protection on them, so yeah. But again, finding either these days, no easy task. Lovely Alpine GTA Turbo just gone out. I've always fancied one of those. Now, something I have always liked actually is the traction Avant Citroen. I'm not a pre-war car person per se, but this is a pre-war design that sort of survived into the early post-war years, and there's just something about them. I don't know if it's those suicide doors or I don't know, something about the look of these cars I really like. Modern in one sense. I believe these are actually a front-wheel drive car. Again, some of these were built in France, some were built in Slough. Now, this is a French-built car because the chevrons are on the outside of the grille. If it's a Slough-built car, the chevrons are behind the grille. So yeah, little interesting fact there. But this, I believe, is a sort of larger to mid-sized saloon, but they also did a limousine version, and they did a light version as well, and a hatchback, and yeah, all manner of different variants of these cars. But yeah, beautiful looking cars, and yeah, if I were going to go for pre-war, I think I would probably consider one of these, and I think values are still quite reasonable as well. I think that's a car I featured last year, got the rather modified Peugeot 208, rather nice Mark II Clio 182 Renault Sport. There was a V6 Phase 1 here as well earlier, but again, time I've looked around the car park, that one appears to have gone now, sadly. I know I said I'm not really into modern SUVs, but DS, this is sort of Citroen's posher version. Again, can't really see much through those windows, especially with the privacy glass, but this is their DS3 Crossback, and yeah, they are well, I don't know if I'd call an SUV stylish, but if you were going to call one stylish, it would be one of the DS ones. In fact, the larger DS Crossback that they do actually is quite a good looking car. It does pain me to admit, as I say, being that I'm not an SUV person. Another RCZ Mark V Clio. The cars everyone are talking about at the moment, the new Renault 5. So we've got the pop green one here, and we've got this black one. First time I've seen a black one. I have seen the blue one with the gold piping, I've seen the yellow. The only colour I haven't seen at the moment is the white one, and this one, the owner's got this rather nice plate as well, R5, Renault 5, and TXE is a trim level that Renault used to have on some of their cars of old. Citroen Berlingo, again, I think there's a point in our lives where we all need something like a Citroen Berlingo. The infinite versatility of a car like this, it's ideal for having your picnic in. Also, again, you can fold the seats up and move them and take them out and use them as a bit of a van, or I've even seen people use them as little camper vans as well. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. Another traction Avant, again, seems to be a French built car, chevrons on the outside. This one looks smaller. I think this is the light version. Again, whether you've got the bigger one or the smaller one, still stunning looking cars. We've got C3, another 2CV with tinting on the back. Quite like the look of that. Yeah, more or less brings us around and to a conclusion of this video almost. But before we do, we've got the awards ceremony. when you come to this event, you can fill in a slip and hand it in, a bit of info about your car, and yeah, they do have some prizes.
I'm afraid I'm not giving an award to the new electric Renault 5, however wonderful that might be. So, my third place award, a very little award but quite a big prize. I mentioned Peugeot 205, so no GTIs here, which is a bit of a shame, but there is that absolutely achingly original little 205 which belongs to Roger Hatcher, and it's done 15,000 miles in its life, and so very much the sort of car we love at Car Journey. You know, it's been interred for years, and now it's come back to life. Certainly my mum had one of those as well, so just lovely to see it, and took my fancy because those cars always take my fancy when they've sort of somehow survived in achingly original condition. So Roger, you've got a prayer mat to sort of pray on when it breaks down. It does come with a decorator, which is quite nice. Just a little bit of a plug, we have a thing called Great British Car Club, so if you live fairly locally and you want to come to all the events and come as often as you like, you need to join the club, because that means you can, it's a year's membership, and we run quite a lot of club events, and particularly like cars like Roger's. So thanks very much, Roger. So it's not very often that I see a car and think I have no idea what that is. But I was wandering up amongst the fantastic ranks of 2CVs, and I was slightly rude about the 2CV. I mean, I did enjoy my 2CV ownership, although I do think you'd still pay quite a lot of money at Alton Towers for a ride like that. But there was a little car parked amongst the 2CVs, and I thought, I've no idea what that is, and very helpfully the owner had put out some boards, so I went and quickly did a bit of research on the internet. And I'm of course referring to the Citroen Bijou, which is an achingly pretty little car, I think, and I understand that car was involved in quite a nasty accident recently, so well done Gary for getting it all back together again. And amongst all the Citroens, as I said, it was the one that really stuck out for me, so if you'd like to come forward, I'd like to give you this little award. I'm delighted on the 60th anniversary of the amazing Renault 16 that we've got, I think, 7 of them here today, which I think is about 10% of the UK population. And Richard Allen, I understand, owns 2. He's got one that's done 250,000 miles, which must qualify him for some sort of amazing award. And the one that he's coming today. But thank you all for coming, all Renault 16s that have come. It's great. I'm going to take a picture of that array. And Richard, there's a nice big screwdriver set here for you, and a big trophy, which please don't drop. The last one of these I gave out, the guy dropped it on the floor and it exploded. So if you hang on to those. Don't drop the glass.
So the little 205 Junior was one of the winners. The little Citroen Bijou that I was so taken with, again another worthy winner, and lovely to see taking top spot was one of the Renault 16s down here. Probably the only time you're going to see this many 16s together outside of France, I would imagine. Again, there's a few cars I didn't quite get around. We've got an Alpine over there, another BX. Again, we've got a couple of Citroen Amours here as well. Both appear to be estate versions, so again, nice to see those cars here as well. There's still quite a few cars here. There are a lot that have gone home, but there's still quite a lot here as well, which is great to see. But just look at that. I think what better shot to finish this video on than all these 16s behind me. Looks like some old Renault press photo, doesn't it? Now again, I do mean to apologise over the delays in getting some of these videos out. I've been so busy at work this past few weeks. It's been phenomenal, and I just haven't had a chance to catch up. As of today, the 18th of May, I've still got my video from Drive It Day 2 weeks ago to complete. I've started editing it, but there's still a lot to do on that one. And the reason that that one hasn't been done yet is because I spent much of last week editing the video from the NEC that I've still had to do, so that's just the way things go. I've also got a couple of members vlogs that I need to get edited and out as well, so again, these are all on my to-do list. I've been discussing with one person today a car that I've got to review, and there are a few other people who I've been in touch with who I still need to get around to going and seeing as well. So, but I hope you have enjoyed today's video. Again, if you have done, please do give the video a thumbs up, show your appreciation. Comment down below on any of the vehicles that we've seen here today. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do so, and don't forget memberships are available for a very low monthly cost, to which you will receive exclusive members only content and some early release to videos as well. Thanks again for watching. I'll catch you on a video again, hopefully very soon.